Come.
Welcome to the Omniverse of Nick and the next long-awaited story, mainly for The Walking Dead. What if Negan became the new Alpha? Before we get into it, be sure to check out the Omniverse's homepage, where our channel mascot Omni will direct you to the Discord, both Google Docs, and everything else the Omniverse has to offer, along with smashing the like button, subscribing to the Omniverse of Nick, sharing the Omniverse around, and turning on all Omniversal notifications, and commenting future requests and expectations in the comments section. With all that said, let's begin. So this is the next Walking Dead story, and a long-awaited, just in general story. What if Negan became the new Alpha? Now, in the original, Alpha's group of the Whisperers, teaming and blending in with hordes of walkers, was one of the most dangerous groups in the entire Walking Dead franchise to this day. Negan was used as leverage from Carol to kill Alpha, and none of us, even the cast, are the group, and every single person thought Negan was just going to join Alpha. Had us all fooled for almost the entire season 10. But it would turn out that Carol wanted him to kill Alpha for her because of Henry, and it ended up being a whole case of revenge doesn't make pain feel better, and it was almost like it was done for nothing, but it still saved everybody's lives. And then Whisperers apprehended Daryl and seemingly were going for Negan, but kneeled to Negan as the new Alpha, who slain the original Alpha. And we all know that she wasn't the original Alpha because of Hera, but that's beside the point. Anyways, when Negan asked for the shotgun from Alpha, it seemed like he was truly turning and was going to kill Daryl once and for all. But then he turned the shotgun, and it turns out that it was all just an act. And Negan would discard the Whisperer mask at the very end of The Walking Dead when talking to Maggie about Glenn, which Dead City kind of irrelevated that, so didn't really matter, but that's once again beside the point. But Negan never lied when he said that he liked being with the Whisperers and how it made him feel, how he was respected, etc., etc. So this begs the question: how would the story go if Negan had actually became the new Alpha and stayed with the Whisperer faction? That's what we answer today. This will be 2 parts, so let's get on into the story. We open up with Negan trying to redeem Alpha and stopping her from going to kill Lydia and having to go about his plan. But Alpha doesn't listen, and they go to the cabin, which was a fake cabin, to get Alpha off her guard. He slits Alpha's throat, gets her head off, and gives it to Carol, but that all goes the same. He's apprehended by Daryl. They go to the Pikes, and everything leading up to that point, with Daryl cornering Negan there, and both of them having the angry conversation about Negan liking it, and Daryl not trusting Negan still, and yada yada yada, that goes all the same. Then Daryl is apprehended by the 2 Whisperers, who are fiercely loyal to how Negan is the new Alpha, and Negan smiles, going on and seemingly accepting the role. This is where things drastically change, because now this time, it's not an act. Negan is dead serious. Negan asks for the shotgun, and he gets it, and he says, "You weren't lying when you said I liked it, Daryl. Truth is, I like it a lot." Daryl says, "You should probably shoot me." Then it flashes to back whenever Daryl was last on his knees, at the lineup. Then it flashes to Negan with Daryl at the sanctuary, and then Negan having his throat slit by Rick. Then, bang! The shotgun goes off, and Daryl Dixon is killed. Negan with the shotgun, now with a sinister, evil smirk, says, "All hail Negan Smith, the new Alpha. Boys, next order of business. Let's find Jolly Green. His time in the army's over. Negan's time has just begun. Welcome back, Negan Smith, the new and improved Alpha." And Beta went to the place where he did originally destroyed all his equipment, took Alpha's head, cut part of Alpha's face off, put it on his mask, and that all goes exactly the same. Then he takes the whole Whisper and Horde army to Alexandria to kill everybody, and it turns out that nobody's there. And Negan has an army of his own. Fiercely loyal Whisperers and small groups of Walkers. And has a feeling he knows where they are. Beta and the Horde and the rest of the Whisperers that are actually loyal to him, or just going along with him just because. And he also knows killing Daryl, it's going to have drastic consequences. But he is going to make sure that he's prepared for that. Meanwhile, Maggie returns and helps Father Gabriel, Aaron, and everybody else. But Judith senses that something's wrong. Daryl hasn't come back. And Negan, nothing's been heard or said about either one of them, more specifically Daryl. And she's getting a very, very bad feeling that something happened to him. Meanwhile, Carol's having the whole same drastic breakdown that she did in the originals, thinking about dying and everything like that. And I have a feeling that while she wouldn't know about Daryl right away, she's beginning to get that feeling too. Then Negan and Beta meet, and the whole Horde, but it's Whispers versus Whisperers, Walkers versus Walkers, and a much stronger and confident Negan versus Beta. And this fight would begin just like the comics and go very much the direction of the comics, as well as some show dynamics. And Negan just has Beta on the back foot, because being the alpha has invigorated Negan more than any version of him you would have ever expected. And Beta does eventually get his eye stabbed out and multiple parts of him just drastically injured. And at some point, the brutish, fierce, ultimate warrior of the Whispers begins to get beat down, injured, and broken before all the Whisperers and just everybody's eyes. And at some point, Negan uses all his strength with his bat and just his strength to kick Beta into the horde of walkers. And he accepts his fate and is devoured. Meanwhile, Lydia saves Carol, and the both of them have their moments and everything, and that goes the same. Except, it's mainly the Horde that goes over the cliff this time, not so many Whisperers. But some still fall over the edge, but I'll get to that later in the story. And Lydia, as well as Carol, begin to discuss the fact that if Negan's here, and he just killed that Beta guy, and he is still with the Whisperers, Carol says about what she did with the whole Negan Alpha thing, and Lydia says she had that idea, and she is very broken about this. And there's only one thing that could have happened to Daryl. Either Alpha did it, or Negan did it. And they all fear that Negan is the one responsible for Daryl's death. And now they both have to realize that now they're going to have to break this to every single person in the group. And when Maggie comes face to face with everyone, she is the first one to know. And she not only tells them about Daryl, but just everything about Negan since it happened. How she originally got him out, and that he did absolutely nothing wrong up until that point. She thinks that the consumption of being around Alpha, that leader role, must have flipped the switch back in Negan and turned him into a full-blood killing machine monster. And now, Carol, Rosita, Maggie, and everyone else have to prepare for when Negan and the rest of the Whisperers, since they've all gone away now, for when they return, and Negan is the enemy once again, as well as the Reapers, which Maggie has come back from. And the Reapers that showed up in the original still fight our group, but it's Carol and Maggie instead of Daryl and Maggie and several others that fight him off and kill him. And the two of them have fought together plenty of times and have shown, especially at the end with arrows, so they would be able to get this done. No one dies here, except the originals, the small characters. Maggie and Herschel talk, and that's all the same, except it's much different because Maggie's whole persona has changed, because not only is Herschel the only family she has, like the original, but Daryl's gone too. So this drastically destroys the group. Daryl was family, and that means we don't get the episode featured around Carol and Daryl at the end of season 10. The episode with Maze still goes the same. Princess and everybody at the Commonwealth goes the same. Carol and Dog would go on their missions alone if they still went out. But overall, Carol would become the new keeper for Dog, and even Dog would realize that his master is no longer around. And then we would get the backstory episode with Negan, with Lucille. And Negan would be thinking about this, bringing in new whisperers as well as tending to his still fiercely loyal subjects who survived the war with Beta and trying to get away from the group without being seen. And collecting new walkers and hordes to make the Whisperer army stronger than Alpha ever made it. And he knows that in order to do that, he must make himself stronger as well. So, he gathers groups of Whisperers, old, new, and continuing, for a huge meeting. And together, it's going to show how influential Negan is beginning to become as the new leader and alpha to the Whisperers. And with all of them together, he says, it's time we go on a little field trip. And Negan collects Lucille after so long. But he says to one of the mainly smart worker types and people in his group, I want you to combine this little bat toy I got here that I've been using, along with my real bat, Lucille. Make me a true bat worthy of Negan, the Alpha. And he says, if our army is to grow stronger, then surely the Alpha's got to go even higher up as well. And so we see a new bat is forged, a stronger Lucille than any version of the canon show and any story type. This is Lucille, basically the fourth, because we've seen two other types other than the OG Lucille, Brandon's and the Shock Lucille. So this is Lucille 4.0, or the Alpha Lucille, the strongest Lucille ever created. Along with Negan's shotgun, which was once Alpha's, Negan has fully exonerated himself as a true menace and Alpha. And he says, now we wait, my army. Build up. And then when we encounter the group again, we shall expand our territory and conquer all. And he says, and this time, unlike Alpha, no mistakes, no slip-ups, and the world will know the name Negan, Alpha, and Whisperer. So season 11 begins. How will the ending and the next episode fare into Negan being the Alpha and the Whisperers being still a faction, even though parts of them were still alive going into season 11, just like not even 5 of them, but with Negan as the enemy once again, being the Alpha, having a much stronger bat and Lucille than any version has ever seen, and with Daryl Dixon dead, how will the war of him becoming the new Alpha finish off next time?
Now get out!
What?
Get out! Everybody get out! Welcome!
Welcome to the Omniverse of Nick, and the finale to the two-part special of What If Negan Became the New Alpha. Before we get into it, be sure to check out the Omniverse's homepage, where our channel mascot Omni will direct you to the Discord, both Google Docs, and everything else the Omniverse has to offer, along with smashing the like button, subscribing to the Omniverse of Nick, sharing the Omniverse around and turning on all Omniversal notifications, and commenting future requests and expectations in the comments section. With all that said, let's begin. We open up getting into Season 11. The Whisperers are still a threat and stronger than ever, with Negan having a much stronger bat, Lucille 4.0, and the group without Daryl Dixon. And without a good Negan. The group in the subway tunnels, that all goes the same, except there's no Negan trouble, but there's also no Daryl. So this creates a good/bad thing. But they still make it through. Nobody ends up getting, killed or anything like that. Because Maggie fell anyway because Negan didn't help her. So I really don't think anyone would get harmed here. If anything, it would just be a slight difficulty more. Especially without Daryl. But he went a separate way anyway. So, and the guy he saved ended up biting the dust. So it's not like anything bad would happen. So they travail through the subway tunnels and get outside, just without Negan being good and being there, and without Daryl. And then the guy in the subway just dies, basically. If he did get saved, he gets killed in the introduction of the Reapers, just like before. Cole dies, then Duncan. And then we get this fight with Maggie and what would be Negan saving Maggie in terms of the first Reaper. But Maggie has to fight the Reaper on her own. And if she did get saved, which I'm going to say she still gets saved here, except Alden dies, sacrificing himself for Maggie to get the win. So, Alden died around this point anyway, so if anything, this is just killing him sooner. Then we would get Daryl and Leah, but since Daryl's dead, they're never going to reunite ever. So, yeah. So that time frame is just Leah and Pope discussing formats and plans for how to counteract this threat that they now have, these people against the Reapers. And with no Daryl, they know nothing at all. So yeah. Then we get Carol, Lydia, Jerry, and Aaron at the hilltop. But Aaron has more than just a few Whisperers he's trying to interrogate. More and more Whisperers and Walkers begin to flood Hilltop. And it's very much so getting Aaron on the back foot. Jerry is killed in the introduction, or should I say, the reintroduction, for the third time, Negan. And Aaron just stares him down. He thinks back to Eric, thinks back to Negan getting locked up. Then he thinks about the mission that him and Negan went on and how he had finally started to trust Negan, and then meeting him again as the Whisperer Negan, and then thinking he was actually good by him killing Alpha, just to see him becoming just like her. And he just stares at Negan and says, "You were never good." And he tries to kill him, but he dies instantly with a gut stab just like Spencer. Then Negan has a conversation with Carol, and he says, "You could blame yourself for this, Carol. You see, I honestly was getting to be okay, getting used to my cell. You should have just kept me in there. But I was willing to do your dirty work. I was willing to get into that camp and kill Alpha, no matter how good it felt, no matter what I had going there, no matter me trying to redeem that woman who killed your son. It all seemed to be for nothing, didn't it? You were plagued by revenge so much, you brought me, a guy who was stuck over 7 years in a cell, to kill a woman, killed your boy, you could have done yourself. Matter of fact, you tried, didn't you? And you got your wish! Because of me. Because I guarantee you, if I hadn't done it, you'd all be burned right here, right now, as you're about to be. These Reaper folk, huh? Now you got me. You should have let revenge not plague your mind. I should know. It once did with me. Or you should have just done the deed yourself. Maybe Daryl would still be here. Maybe Aaron wouldn't be on the ground right now. Your boy? He could have lived had you all called me sooner or pulled the trigger yourselves. But you people didn't think about that, did you? Now, I'm going to do what I should have done all those years ago and burn all down to the ground and kill everyone, starting with you people. Lydia just looks at Negan, flabbergasted, betrayed, angry, and scared. She yells at him, saying that I hated my mom, but seeing someone become just like her, you sicken me. And Negan says to Lydia, I ain't no hero. And Lydia says, you could have been. Instead of you could be, it's you could have been. You were finally on a path. I might not have known you long, but you saved my life. And then you turn to this. And Negan says, you're right, I did save you. I saved you like I couldn't save Carl. I saved you like I couldn't save my wife. Where did that end up? Nowhere. It would have just landed me back in that cell. Everything I did for you people, trying to change, you just saw me as the man who bashed Maggie's husband's face into the ground, right? That's all I am to you people. So, just like their conversation went canonically, Negan says, I'm going to do what I should have done if I could all over again. Like right now, I'm going to kill every single one of you. And it flashes to Negan from the lineup. And he says, this time, ain't no one saving any of you. And he grabs a shotgun and he fires at everybody. First, Carol, and then Lydia, who just doesn't even try to fight back. And then Maggie tries to put up every single bit of a fight she has, but it's nothing. She is no kind of match, whether it be by the Reaper's hands or Negan's. She just is not anywhere close to a match in this case. Meanwhile, the Reapers, still with Pope, have not given up. The Hawacha is put in place, but Leah still betrays Pope and kills him. But with no Daryl, it's a much different agenda for Leah that never gets solved. Negan eventually crosses paths with Leah, and even though Leah puts up a fight and Negan faces his first and only Reaper, she is put down by this amazingly destructive savior turned prisoner turned whisperer turned alpha, the most dangerous alpha yet. But eventually, the feelings of this, the betrayal, the lead up, Lydia, Carol, and killing the main leaders besides Rosita and Gabriel and everyone else in Alexandria and all the other communities and everything like that, knowing that everyone is going to be leaderless, familyless, and that the groups are now broken, that he doesn't have to fight them anymore, it destroys Negan so much that it breaks him. He burns Lucille 4.0 and mourns over the fact he'd finally started to understand why Rick did what he did, only for him to turn again into something even worse. So eventually, Negan abandons the Whisperers to death, and they all just end up dying, burning, or just being forgotten. Negan eventually does get a signal that Rick Grimes is alive and that Michonne went to go search for him. And when the duo cross paths again, Rick is very surprised that not only is Negan out of his cell, but that he has found him and his wife. And the two, Michonne and Rick, after their journey, they hear everything that went on with Negan. And Negan explains everything, with Michonne infuriated that almost all of their family is gone. But when they do return, Rick and Michonne see that not everything is destroyed. Only Hilltop and Kingdom have completely fallen. But everything else remains. The Reapers, they had been dealt with already. And Alexandria still remains strong, with Hilltop just being abandoned, but soon to try to be rebuilt. And with their children, Gabriel and many, many, many others still alive, and Rick and Michonne returning, Lance and the Commonwealth are dealt with. And their development wouldn't go the same or progress as far as it did, even with Eugene and several others. Without Daryl, Carol, Jerry, and Aaron, and Lydia, the Commonwealth storyline would be paused indefinitely until Rick and Michonne and Negan make their return. Rick gets to meet his son, re-meet his daughter, and everything else is put in place. But the losses that they have received on the belt of one man lead them back to square freaking one. Negan is forcibly put in an acceptance of this cell once again, and it's like he never left. By his own means, because of everything that he did, he accepts this punishment because he knows he deserves it this time instead of fighting it forcibly. It's just like it just happened again. And Rick and Michonne say, even if you accept this, these deaths are worse than any one that you did to us in the past. But you came to us and admitted it. You came to us and saw yourself forced to face it. And you didn't fight us at all when trying to come back, and you helped us return. But that doesn't mean that you're free from the punishment you are meant to receive. If this had gone much differently and you had truly stuck to that redemption, we might have considered seeing you out of your cell as a reward. But now, you stay there just like we planned. Forever. And Negan has no choice but to accept it. All because he made one choice to become an alpha worse than the original, worse than Hera, and worse than any version of Savior or good or Whisperer Negan ever was. And then it flashes to Negan's Whisperer mask, and seeing everything that might have happened after they won against Commonwealth and Pamela, Negan discards the Whisperer mask forever, seeing this other side of him could have taken place if he had made that one choice. Negan knows no good can come from a Whisperer mask, and no good can come from an evil Negan. A fate that would come to fold with him and Maggie, whether he wanted to discard it away from himself or not. The future is something we can't predict. So, the end of a tale, just like the Clara and Gargiulo one that people have wanted to see me cover for a long time. And I say that I pretty much did a really good job with it. A much better job than I initially thought I was going to. But there was only so much that I could cover. And you're wondering why, like many of my other stories, it ended so abruptly, and why I took a nod basically out of Dale's story, except much more, teasy-like and way more shortcut. It's because of where it's at in the story, and because of what it covers, it just proves another side of Negan. Because of where his loyalties lie at that point, it was impossible to turn him completely evil. And even he would know that. If I had turned him completely evil, especially after helping Carol and knowing about Lydia, liking Judith, loving Carl, and all that, if I had turned him completely evil like I had planned, yes, he did kill Daryl, he did kill Carol, he did kill Lydia, he did kill Aaron, he did kill Jerry, but it wasn't really real in the first place. It was basically Negan exploring another side of himself. At the very end of his road in the original Walking Dead, that very much could have happened. His road to redemption is one of the most complex and almost amazing to really think about. Think about it. He went from a normal guy with a cancerous wife to a maniac, psychopathic leader who was snarky and with a barbed wire baseball bat, a vest, and just a mean freaking all-around attitude. We all know the iconic Negan. Lineups, saviors, minions, downfall, jail cell, redemption, then back to seemingly downfall, back to redemption, then back to Dead City, and back to redemption. It's a downward spiral up to an upwards spiral that really puts the whole Negan situation with this story another curving point of that. It basically, what I did was I took the Whisperer dynamic, folded him in longer to it, and made him realize it at the end. But at that point, it was too late. And since it was all just a figment of Negan's mind, you could just see this as a hypothetical universe for what it truly is. A what-if universe, not only in our minds, but Negan's mind, which we can guarantee that's the way that it happened in his mind, which we'll never know. The point is, Negan becoming the new Alpha would mean that his road to redemption would put him in a position where it absolutely guarantees that by the time Rick and Michonne return, kids alive or not, he would be stuck in that cell forever. The rest of his days, just like he was ultimately meant to. He'd be stuck in that cell for the rest of his days, cursed by not only his past failures, but his recent failures. And this story would ultimately just prove a side of Negan that he himself knew he would have possibly gone down to if he had actually chosen to become the new Alpha, and just another side of him that never went away, cursed to being an evil psychopathic leader that could have very well chosen a second path to darkness. Little did he know, Dead City would be right around the corner and would force him near that situation once again. But it really didn't, when you really think about it. Yes, Lucille, but if you guys watch Dead City, you know what happens. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed What If Negan Became the New Alpha, with the new bat, the new overall standpoint for Negan, and this overall hypothetical scenario not only for us, but in Negan's mind. It would ultimately be one of the most looked at scenarios from the standpoint of Negan, and give us a new standpoint on Negan's character and where his loyalties would lie if he actually chose that route. Originally, I was planning on him killing everybody, and that definitely was going to be the route that he went down here, but there's only so much you can do with a pretty much dead army. A half-redempted look on life, and a very complex narrative of a character that really could not stay evil again for long, especially if you saw whenever he tried to escape and he ended up going straight back to the cell in season 9. Yeah, this just proves that turning point, and this scenario playing itself in Negan's mind just like Dale's. It just, unlike Dale though, this scenario would make so much more sense for Negan because it would be a past folding point rather than a future one. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and stay tuned, because General Tao and Thunder's first omniversal quest are what comes next. Stay tuned, hyped, and packed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
Now get out!
What?
Get out! Everybody get out!